The following stories have been intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. My friends Eddie and Tom and I were driving down a road through the mountains. It was late at night and it was a rather skinny road. There wasn't really much to the road. There was just woods on the side and some houses that were scattered throughout the side. We were going about 25 miles an hour, and one of the houses looked rather abandoned. So Eddie had lost a bet, and Tom and I thought it would be a good idea to bet him to walk into one of the houses for his bet. We picked one random house that we saw on the side of the road. We thought it would be a really good idea to pick this one since he had to walk into this house. It looked really creepy with boarded up windows and a satanic star written on one of the windows. So we parked the car and we got out and walked with him to the front of the house. But from there, we would make Eddie go up by himself. We quickly noticed that some of the furniture that was on the patio looked fairly new. There are no lights on or any cars parked anywhere on the property. But we assumed since the patio furniture looked fairly new, somebody may have lived here, so we figured it would be safer to just walk back to the car, just in case. So we walk back to the car and we get in the car and start it up. As soon as we turned the headlights on and began moving, we noticed on the side of the road that there was a decapitated animal. We couldn't see the rest of its body, we only saw the animal's head. It was just sitting on the side of this narrow road. This freaked all three of us out, but we quickly just figured that it might just be roadkill, but it might be best to just go ahead and get out of here. And Tom and I agreed we'd make Eddie do something else for the bet, so we didn't forget about that. We drove up about 100 feet, and then we quickly noticed that there was a wax statue sitting on the porch of the house that we were just at. The car lights lit up the porch just enough for us to notice what it is that we were looking at. The porch was within a short walking distance of the car, as these houses were very close to the road. As we were investigating, we noticed that it looked like it was a taxidermy statue of a human being, with a goat for a head. It was standing very still on the side of the porch that was away from the front door, which explains probably why we didn't see it. I decided to put the car in park so we could get a better look, but we looked from the car window because we didn't want to go outside to see what this was. All three of us have agreed we've never seen anything like this before, and my friend Tom in the passenger seat looked at me, and he told me that this is the freakiest thing that he's ever experienced. Eddie in the backseat agreed as well. So after a few moments, we agreed that we should leave, so I put the car in drive. As soon as the car began to inch forward, the statue came to life. It revealed itself to actually be a person with a goat head. It starts to run towards us very violently, and it appears to be carrying a weapon of some sort. As soon as we notice this, we floor the car, and we almost lost traction and control of the car because of how much speed we were gaining. All of our hearts were racing, and we look up to see in the mirror the man with the goat head staring at us as we were going farther and farther away from his position. I could only imagine how much trouble we avoided by getting out of there in time. But ever since that day, we've never gone that way ever again. We will go the longer way, even if it takes an extra hour, just to ensure we don't run into this ever again. This happened to me in high school. For our biology class, there was a field trip to go to a funeral home. While we were listening to the guide talk about the cremation machine, this girl named Laura in our class turns to me and whispers in my ear and points at the machine. And she says, "That's going to be you one day." But she didn't mean it as a joke. She meant it in a very mean and disheartening way. I've never talked to Laura before, but I just knew who she was because she was in my class. But ever since she said that to me, I never said a word to her after that. Exactly a year later, The heater in Laura's house had caught on fire in the middle of the night. Her house had caught on fire, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. She was the only one in her family that died in that house fire that night, and the remains of her body was fully cremated in that same machine. Never will I ever forget what she said to me. One day I had decided to plan a hiking day for myself. To do something that I'm not used to. The whole day was pretty normal. Trees and bushes were all around me, and I enjoyed being in the outdoors in the mountains. Nothing really stood out and seemed strange at all, until I was making my way back to my car. I figured an 8-hour hike was good enough. The sky was getting dark and I needed to get back fast. But it got weird because I didn't recognize the trail back to my car. Then I began to panic. Night had taken over already, and all I had was a small flashlight on me. I had no clue how to get back, and I knew it was already too late and too dangerous to keep going through this forest. I began to worry that I wouldn't have any shelter for the night, when, luckily enough, I saw a broken down cabin. I shined my flashlight on it, and it was really dark, and it seemed like nobody had visited in years. But I knew it was the only place where I could find rest until daylight, especially since this flashlight is going to run out of battery soon. I knocked on the door a few times and waited for an answer. Nobody came to the door, so I let myself in. Where, strangely enough, there was a bed in the center of the room, and it was fitted for one person, so I plopped down, and I knew if the owner did come back, I could explain myself pretty clearly. I was sure the owner wouldn't mind, or probably even not around anymore. So I went ahead, got myself comfortable in bed, and I put my stuff to the side. As I tried to sleep, I just couldn't ignore the collection of paintings that I saw around the room. Very odd-looking portraits of just strange-looking people all looking towards me, each wearing a smile that kind of sent chills up my spine. I tried to ignore this and drifted off into sleep because I was so exhausted. The next morning, I got up early to leave before the owner did get back, and I was shocked to see that there weren't any paintings around the room, only windows.